Hello and welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. It's been an exciting week. We've got lots to talk about, so let's get stuck in right away. News number one are price driven, and that has been a very interesting week for Bitcoin, I would say. If you measure the price in US dollar, we went anywhere from 108,000 to almost 14,000, and the price has sort of been wobbling around these benchmarks. The reason for this is very simple. You do see a lot of early holders in Bitcoin. They may have gotten in 10 plus years ago, starting to sell portions of their portfolio. I think this is more than inevitable. At one point, if you were lucky enough to get in early and you actually hold on to the Bitcoin, you will also then inevitably cash out. Even though there may be the potential upside in the future, or you never know what's going on, but for now, this has just been going on, and this really resulted in a lot of price fluctuations. And we didn't really see a lot of increased net inflows into the ETFs or a lot of corporate buying. So therefore, a lot of that has been now driven by these early investors who were selling. However, considering how much sell pressure has been on Bitcoin, it held up quite nicely. At the time of recording this video, it's anywhere around 111,000 US dollar per coin. And things continue and things stabilize and ease out in the end, as they've done in every bull market. When there's phases of selling, you do see that Bitcoin is doing its thing and continuing to grow in user numbers, reaching new all-time highs in hash rate, and also reaching new all-time highs in certain amounts of Bitcoin in wallets. So in the grand scheme of things, just another week in Bitcoin. Second news are with the UAE, and that is that they are now on the 6th place in the list of nation states holding Bitcoin. They recently announced that they bought 15,000 Bitcoin for roughly 700 million US dollars at the time of the announcement. And with that, they're really making a keen push forward. The UAE has always been sort of I would call it black box, because how much is the nation actually buying? How much is the sovereign wealth fund buying? And how much of that is also nationwide infrastructure that's being built with mining sites, for example, because guess what? Energy is quite cheap down there. And now they've sort of shown that they are continuing to climb up that leaderboard. It will remain interesting if the sovereign wealth fund will also continue to allocate more. They've been very much allocated in the ETFs. And if the UAE potentially is also further establishing mining sites and therefore trying to get to as much Bitcoin as possible. And the last news are a little bit of I would say positive news for Bitcoin, but very frightening news potentially for crypto investors. And that is that Google Cloud, the cloud infrastructure product by big tech giant Google, has announced that they're working on their own blockchain network on a layer 1, meaning they would directly compete with altcoins such as Ethereum, Solana, and all of the stuff you often read about. And that they really want to do it because the infrastructure is often used by these projects anyway, and they find better and faster way to do these things. And it's just basically another proof that all of these altcoins are very centralized, because why would you rely a big tech player like Google to actually run your infrastructure? And B, that they are under constant attacks by exactly these players, because if anything is just about transferring data and IoT and bananas on the blockchain, you would actually not need these native cryptocurrencies. You could just use the networks provided by big tech and therefore establish a new sector. However, good news for Bitcoin, because it shows the contrast. We don't need a big player in the middle. We don't need anyone providing that infrastructure, which would be heavily attackable because it's centralized. We actually just need to wait 10 minutes for the next block and play according to network rules. With that, we're at the end of this week in Bitcoin. You know the drill. If you got questions, feedback, or just want to say hello, leave me a comment below, and I look forward to seeing you next week again.